one thing I've got an absolute shitload of is annuals. I used to love getting them for Christmas, and I used to love picking them up at car boot sales as well. Car boots used to be great for annuals. You'd get piles of annuals like Beano, Dandy, Topper, Beezer, Shiver and Shake, Cheeky, all of that. You could get like a big pile the size of Andre the Giant for about 10p back in the day before everyone started watching Bargain Hunt and Cash in the Attic and car boot sales and flea market lines blurred irreconcilably. But one of the annuals that I used to love getting for Christmas was the Spider-Man annual. I used to get one most Christmases. I've got a fair few here that I've dug out while I've been tidying up some stuff. I think this was the first one that I had. It's a great cover artwork on this one. It's got the story in it. It's the Vulture, the second Vulture, where Adrian Toomes' cellmate Blackie Drago takes the mantle on. There's Craven the Hunter and Electro in it. There's this one here, I think was Car Boot 5. This one's got, is tied in with the rubbish. Well, I say rubbish, it's, I don't know how I feel about the 70s Spider-Man TV show. It kind of makes me nostalgic and disappointed at the time. It was the sort of thing you'd watch it and you watch the title sequence and think like sort of, yes, a Spider-Man, but there was no other elements other than Spider-Man. It was basically the kid out the Sound of Music, wasn't it, with pyjamas on, climbing up bungalows to porn jazz music, and there was no super villains. There was nothing from the comics. J. Jonah Jameson was in it, but he was just like a random old boy. He wasn't like banging his fist and his cigar moving around and going, get me pictures of Spider-Man this instant. Miss Brand Electro is really Spider-Man, got himself a different mask and all of that. So it was kind of, I mean, there's an episode guide in here, which is an interesting thing though, because before the internet, that was how you found out what episodes you had and hadn't seen, especially something that was like syndicated, that was like randomly repeated. You'd have to get something like this or Vulcan magazine or Joel what's his face's Batman Bat book and that to actually know what episodes were in existence, because it's not like now you can just go on Wikipedia or IMDb. So these things were quite useful in a way, because even though I found the Spider-Man series disappointing, same thing with the Incredible Hulk really. I used to like it when I was a kid when he was the Hulk. Most of it was Bill Bixby walking around in like a brown tank top and bell bottoms doing like kind of adult themed stuff that kids had not like adult themed stuff like shagging and drugs, but it's adult themed as in of no interest to kids. But I was still obsessed with these shows because they were comic book related, even though I found them disappointing. My favourite Spider-Man annual is Spider-Woman annuals as well. There was one Spider-Woman annual to my knowledge. It's a weird one this, because I was familiar with the TV cartoon series, which is kind of an in-name only thing. She's still Spider-Woman and still Jessica Drew. In the cartoon, she was a journalist and she worked for like a sub-Daily Bugle thing, and there was like a bloke and there was this annoying fucking kid that worked with her. There may or may not have been a dog, I can't quite remember. It's sort of like, I'm thinking in my head, I've got Miss Lyons with Spider-Man and his amazing friends, wasn't it? And then there was the dog that, maybe I'm thinking of that, or the dog that looked like Mr. T that was in the Mr. T cartoon. But the Spider-Woman comics are a completely different kettle of fish altogether. This is where she was a bounty hunter. Most notable for this is it shows you the kind of random nature of like just reprint something from a Spider-Woman comic and bung it out there. You've got Spider-Woman in the fucking half raw here in the shower and getting out of it. And it's quite a good formative thing. That bloke Wortham used to say that comic books turn you into a big like sexual pervert and everything, like in a good way, in a good way. And as he said that like it was a bad thing, but yeah, that was kind of an early sort of thing, I suppose. My favourite Spider-Man annual was this one. This was the 1984 one, I think. I remember getting this. This was kind of my introduction to the grittiness of comics, because again, like I say, they used to kind of randomly reprint American strips, usually a fair few years older than the current ones. But in this one, they've gone with the night Gwen Stacy died as the comic reprint in it. So it starts off with, I mean, if you're a comic book fan, you'll be familiar with this reprinted in virtually every kind of compilation of Spider-Man comics. A lot of people, older people might have read it the first time around. This is where it starts off with Harry Osborn Peter Parker's best mate, laying in bed, completely fucked on acid, with the Doctor explaining this to Mary Jane and Gwen Stacy or at his bedside. He even names it LSD by its technical name and stuff. So you're straight into the Bronze Age right about there. You've got the whole thing of Harry Osborn being completely fucking banjaxed on psychedelics. And then you've got Gwen Stacy, of course, dies tragically. She gets wanged off a bridge by the Green Goblin. Spidey tries to, that's not the right page, bear with me. Spidey tries to save her by webbing her with his web, and he grabs her shoe, and there's that sound effect there, that swick. Is it swick? Yeah, swick. I always think Snick's Wolverine, in it, swick, with this, and it's, has she died of the fall? Has Spidey done like a reverse Albert Pierpoint by breaking her neck by grabbing her foot? He'll never know, and it'll eat him up forever. This is an annual that is probably like intended mostly for like under 10-year-olds. And you've got Gwen Stacy's dead. She's dead for real there. I think there was some thing where she come back as a clone, weren't there, with the carry-on and all that kind of thing. But then you've got the Green Goblin as well. Of course, he gets his comeuppance, and he gets killed by his own Goblin glider. He tries to, Spidey kicks the absolute fuck out of him with some justification. He's about to beat him to death, and then he realises that he's Spider-Man and great power and all that kind of thing, so he's going to take the Goblin to the nick like a responsible citizen. The Goblin's got his Goblin glider on remote. He's going to come round and give Spidey a good skewering, but of course the Spider sense, you'd think the Goblin would know this, is about his fucking squillionth showdown with him. You think you know about the spot? Maybe he doesn't know about the Spider sense. I don't know. Someone who has a greater knowledge of how the relationship was between Norman Osborn and Peter Parker might be able to answer that. Did the Green Goblin? Probably didn't know he had Spider sense. Why would he tell him? So the Goblin glider comes around. The Goblin gets speared by his own glider and nailed to the wall, and he appears to be dead at that point. He comes back in the 90s, I think, but it just seems like I just like this. It seems like an incredible thing to go, let's put this in for kids. It's got LSD and death in it, and I think it was the same year, the Spider-Woman annual, where you could see like half of her tits and her bare ass in the shower and everything. It was a better time for kids' annuals, I'd imagine. Admittedly, I've not read the current Spider-Man annuals, but I doubt there's any kind of tits or psychedelics in them, so I will stick my neck out and say that I possibly grew up in a better era in that respect. That's pretty much all I've got to say about the Spider-Man annuals really. That's kind of all. So yeah, thanks for watching this, and give it a share and all of that, and I'll see you again another time. Cheers.